Good morning, everyone. You're welcome once again to the week 3 of our software testing bootcamp organized by Quality Techies. Today, I have the honor of introducing our guest speaker for today in the person of Obinna. I'll be reading his profile briefly. Right. Okay. Obinna Agobuche is an accomplished technology professional with extensive experience in software quality assurance, test automation, and quality engineering. He has built a strong reputation for driving quality-focused initiatives, implementing robust testing strategies, and ensuring the delivery of reliable, scalable, and customer-centric solutions across diverse industries like fintechs and the banking industry. With a passion for continuous improvement and innovation, Obinna has successfully collaborated with cross-functional teams to enhance software quality, streamline testing processes, and promote best practices in quality engineering. Is recognized as a quality assurance team lead in his current workplace for his analytical mindset, problem solving abilities, and commitment to delivering excellence. Beyond his technical expertise, Obinna is dedicated to mentoring aspiring professionals, sharing industry knowledge, and contributing to the growth of the technology community through learning, collaboration, and professional development. So we are honored to have Mr. Obinna Gumbuche on this call. Please drop your emojis wherever you're connected to make welcome the special uh, but unique test professional, Obinna Agobuche. I wish I could turn on a standing ovation and welcome you right here. I hope you can hear my applause from here. All right, this Obinna, I'll stop sharing right now while you bring up your screen. So please, guys, feel free to ask any question. He's very experienced at testing core banking applications, e-commerce applications, fintech applications. So if you really have interest in navigating through your career and working in this field, I want you to prepare all your questions and bring in all your curiosity to ask him questions. So, Obinna, you may have the floor, please. I'll stop sharing my screen now.
All right, Adenike, thank you very much for. At some point, I almost wanted to drop off the call because I don't know what you're saying. Yeah, we all know ourselves here. All right, but yes, I'm sharing my screen in a bit. Oh, I see you're still sharing. Okay, sharing my screen. Please let me know when you can see my screen. I believe you can see my screen now, right?
Yes, we can.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, so like our convener said, my name is Agubuche Obinna, and I
You want
currently work.
brighter, brighter fire.
Sorry for that interference. I'm muting the person right away. Please, can you stay muted if you are not?
Yes,
Let me see, Omolola.
yes. If you would want to ask a question, I would be. It would be nice if you could like signify by raising up your hand. I'm very open for this session to be very interactive because like the convener and myself, we actually practically built the skill on the job. And I think I can speak for myself when I say I started from ground zero as a software tester. Then we grew into test analysis, test planning, test execution, communication, reporting. All these are skills that I believe you would grow as you are proceeding as a software or QA engineer. Okay, so basically, I know this is a series that has started for about 5 days now. This is the fifth day, and this session will be looking at the entire software test lifecycle and test documentation. Now, so basically, I would also want to, because of, I would just want to appreciate the convener because, okay, Tokwe, yes, you can actually catch up. I believe you can reach out to the convener, Ms. Adenike Olakweton. She could probably run you through some of the past lectures. But yes, we're also going to do a brief run through of what we've studied and where we are going to, or what we are going to be doing today. Okay, so I'm going to start with a little story, right? Software testing, just how software testing, what do we do as a software tester, which I believe you know, because if you've been in this session from the first day till this time, I believe I know the presenters have done justice because I can speak for them myself. I can speak to the presenter of the first day. He's a very close friend. I've seen him, I've worked with him, and he's detailed. I can speak to the presenter for the second day. So I'm just going to introduce my own lesson with like a story. So, for instance, okay, I don't know if you've seen an ad. I think it's a foreign ad. A man walks into a building and there was nobody in the building, and he notices a nice architectural display. So nothing was holding the thing together. It was just there, but it was hanging, and he noticed a flaw because everybody thinks that software testers are actually called to find defects. Like that is what our work is. Yes, it is part of what we do as testers. But more importantly, because the way testing and quality engineering is evolving, our roles is more into guiding development delivery processes. I don't want to bore us with too much talk. So if you feel you want to ask a question, please do also raise your hands. So testing has evolved from writing test cases to finding defects, engaging developers. At some time when we started, some of us were having grievances, arguments with developers because we don't see things from the same perspective. But now we are going to the age where quality engineers are part of the elicitation process, the requirements gathering, the engineering planning, the backlog, the delivery pipeline. We know what you're supposed to contribute. You know what you're supposed to do, and you're supposed to guide so that will prevent defects, not actually finding defects, right? So we work towards the process so as to prevent defects. And if you're planning to write the course certification for software testers, the ISTQB certification, what we are going to be treating now is basically the chapter 3 and chapter 4 of the ISTQB syllabus. Okay, so yeah, like I said, for week 1, we've studied the software testing fundamentals. They talked about what functional testing is, what non-functional testings are. So it is broadly divided into functional and non-functional testing. Um, I believe we did like um, a comparison between the work of a quality assurance analyst and the work of a quality control is. So, like I said, we are quality assurance engineers. We work in tandem with the delivery team to prevent defects, to prevent bugs from going to production. Quality controls analysts, they actually look for defects. They actually want to see that there's defects in this application. So it is their win when there is a defect. But for us assurance analysts, we ensure that there is no defect passed to production. Okay, testing errors, failure, defects, yes. So the terminology for bugs, for errors, defects. So we discussed also testing types and principle. I'm going to touch a bit of those things here. And also for week 2, they discussed life cycles. Well, life cycles, the SDLC life cycles, that's the software development life cycle and the software test life cycle. So this is in tandem to like where we are. So the software test life cycle is part of the SDLC life cycle, because on the SDLC life cycle, there's a testing model, and that is where the software test life cycle finds bearing. So we are kind of that part. We are kind of that in mathematics. We say that we are in that Venn diagram. Do you understand? So we are incorporated in the SDLC life cycle. We have testing levels. We have test techniques, where we employ on how to carry out our test, and we have test management. Test management is basically how we collaborate with the team to carry out testing, plan towards testing, plan the way we are going to do execution, plan the way we are going to report defects, and plan the way we are going to close up. So they are all week 3. I want to believe this is week 3, right? So there's test planning and tools and test deliverables. So I think by now we should be able to confidently say what the software test lifecycle is, what test planning is, and what test planning is, and what are test deliverable, and how we are going to document our processes to the delivery of the software. Okay, if I am too fast, please let me know, because we get our hands dirty. So, okay, for now, we are going to start with test planning. So, this is the first phase of what we want to do today. So, test planning. So, the basic objective of test planning is to define the scope, the strategy, and approach, and the resources for the entire test effort. Now, like I used to tell most of my colleagues trying to write their certification exams, we've noticed that test planning is done differently amongst organizations. Like our convener, I've been opportune to work across multiple organizations. And the way we plan for tests differs from organization to organization. Most time, depending on the risk appetite of the organization. What I mean by risk appetite is how much risk the organization is willing to take, do you understand, to deliver a project to the market. Some organizations are very, 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 very strict. Anything that is strict risk like this gone, they don't want to put their mouth. But there are some organizations that are waivers. They will look at it, okay, if we do this, if we breach this risk, what is the fine? What are we standing to get? They will do that check and balance. They will say, okay, this is a risk we can accommodate, but we have plans to mitigate them. Do you understand? So everybody has their way of doing it, but I want us to stick to the global way, the standardized way of doing it, and that is what is captured in the ISTQB syllabus. So if you're planning to write that exam, just disabuse yourself from the way you have been doing it and stick to what is on the syllabus. So basically, your test planning is you're defining the scope, you're defining the strategy, you're defining the approach and the resources that is going to be needed for your entire testing effort. In some places, test planning is just a sheet of paper. In some places, test plan is with a group of your test cases. In some places, it's a document. It's a full-blown document that analyzes all this and it's being sent out for sign off, because based on the kind of software delivery or agile, the delivery methodology that's being used in such organizations, there must always be a sign off of the test plan before we engage into the software, the testing activities. But today, most organizations are moving from waterfall. What I just explained is waterfall. Most organizations are moving from waterfall to the agile delivery methodology, and I believe we are going to come to there. We are going to get there with as we progress in this course. Okay, so we discussed that. So the major activities for your test planning phase is to prepare like your test strategy and your test plan document. Like I said before, you identify the tools that you're going to be using. You identify the environment where you're going to be carrying your tests from. I can't see if there's anybody's hands up. Does anybody have a question? Um, Olubukola, I see your video is on. Do you want to ask a question? Okay, I think I'm just going to continue. Then we estimate efforts and also assign responsibilities. So I'm just going to talk through this quickly. Identifying tools. So what it means is, depending on the scope of what is being provided for you to test, most times when an application or a project is brought forward for testing, the project might have begun development, or they might have been done with development, or it has not even started or at all. So we are supposed to analyze and come up with a strategy to test the application. Two things we are going to do. First is the tools they are going to test it. Are we going to test it on a mobile device? Are we going to test it on a web application, on a browser? If it's a browser, which browser are we going to use to test it? Because you're going to be considering the customers, people that are going to use this application. So you decide the tools you're going to use. Am I going to test it on an Android device? I'm going to test it on an iOS device. Am I going to test it with an app? Am I going to test it with simulator? Am I going to test it on a sandbox? Where another thing is the environment. So am I going to have a standalone environment where I'm going to run the test? Am I going to test it in the development environment, or am I going to test it in the UAT environment? UAT means the user acceptance testing environment. That's the QA. Or am I going to test it even on production? Yes, they might just say, okay, we want to do a quick test on pilot. By this time, say by 2 a.m. to 3 a.m., nobody is using this application. We are just going to limit it to the testers within the organization. Let's quickly test in an hour. So we are going to make all those strategies and document them during our test plan. Estimate effort and time and assign responsibilities. That's also done in test planning. And so from experience, we do so in agile. It's so we do these things collaboratively with the project managers, the business representatives, and the developers. We pick up a testing task, because by this time this project would have been broken down into tasks. We pick one task and we say, okay, for this task, this is going to take 2 days for us to test, so that you will not be like boxed and boxed for you to like complete it. Because the idea of estimating effort is to say, okay, you want to use it to manage a delivery timeline, so as you'll be able to manage your stakeholders as well. So you actually do you estimate your efforts as well. Then your comes to your test case design. Now, test case design and development. This is where you create the test artifacts based on the documented requirements. I want to believe that before now, you could tell me what a functional requirements document is, or a business requirements document, or a user story, or some organizations call it a user journey. So these things, all these things I've mentioned are documented requirements. So this captures what the business is supposed to achieve with that project, who is supposed to use that project, um, how that project is supposed to work, the business gains for that project. These are everything, and the functionalities the core functionalities of that project, what that project is supposed to do, and how that project is supposed to do it, that application is supposed to do. So basically, everything on how it works that is documented in that FRD, the functional requirement document or the business requirements document, needs to be validated. And the ability for you to pick a requirement for each of your test cases, cover the entire functionality captured in the requirement document. It's what we call test coverage. And for us to be able to ensure 100% test coverage, we use something that we call test matrix. So we use something that is called, we do a kind of matrix from the requirements to the documented test cases. We are going to come to that in about the future. So this is where we create the test artifacts, the test cases, how we are going to test for each of the scenarios that is documented in that document, the requirement document, and now we are going to validate them. Then we decide from the first phase where we have planned, we are also going to know if that test is going to be basically manual, if we are going to be running API tests, if the tests are going to be non-functional, probably just see if we can do load or performance testing, or if that test is going to be automated. In the test case phase is when you are going to start automating your scripts. And basically, test automation basically means instead of you running your test manually with your hand, clicking links and buttons, we write a test script that is going to automate the entire process. I'm going to show like a sample script for that as well. Also, so we review and baseline the test cases. That's we review it against the requirements document and onboard them for test execution. Then the next phase is environment setup. In most organizations today, development is done in a separate environment. And when developers are done with their the building of the application, it is being deployed to another environment, which is a UAT environment for testing. Some organizations, the dev environment and the dev environment is also the UAT environment, most especially for fintech organizations. You test why, because they employ a build test approach. So on the same environment, you build, you test before you ship to the client. So this is the phase where we set up the environment. And for most organizations, this environment is actually being set because I don't accept you're joining an organization from the scratch because it's already work in progress and there's always this continuous cycle and maintenance of an existing environment. So this is where you configure the hardware that you're going to be using for your testing, the software you're going to be using for your testing. If you need to install a new browser, that is where you're going to install it. If you need to install a new app, that's when you're going to do that exercise. If you need to install a new IDE for your test automation, that is where you're going to do it. Right now, we are in the age of agile, of AI. So if you want to, if they say, okay, you need a kind of AI assistant on your IDE, this is when you also need to do that integration. You set up your test servers, set up integration to your DBs, because while you are testing for every functionality or every function you do on the front end, you need to confirm that it is being logged on the back end. So you check for all those things, check for environmental stability, and most times this is done with the help of the engineers, or today we call them the DevOps engineers. So test execution is that phase where we run those test cases and log the results against the expectations. Basically, what this is for those test cases we've written down at the stage where we are writing out, where we are doing our test case design. So for each of those scenarios, we are going to be marking them. For the ones that have passed, let's say the idea is for you to be able to log into a particular application successfully, and you put in your username, you put in your password, and you click on login, and you logged in successfully. That scenario is passed. You mark it as passed. So if you encountered a defect, probably you clicked on login and the page show the 500 error or show the not available screen, you mark it as failed, that you entered your username and password, you clicked on login, but the landing page did not show successfully. So we put all those things and we actually put in the actual results we captured. So there's an actual result and the expected result. So we are supposed to be able to log in successfully, but actually what we saw was that login functionality failed. So, like we said, the second one, we compare the actual versus the expected result, and we report defects. And there's a defect tracking tool, so that's going to help for regression and actually testing for subsequent versions. Then, when this is done, it is the test closure. At the point of planning, there's always an there's always an entry criteria and there's an exit criteria. So at that point, because based on the exit criteria we've done during our planning, we evaluate that exit criteria based on the number of test cases that we've written and passed. Then we can decide if we can proceed to test closure to prepare a test summary report. Some organization call it test summary report. Some organization call it TCR, test completion report. Some organization call it testing report. No matter what it is being called, when you're writing an ISTQB exam, it is your test summary report. If your organization is calling it test completion report, you go and write test completion report in ISTQB, they will fail you. So we prepare a test summary report and document lessons learned. This is very, very important. This is very, very important. To it helps you to actually, when you're probably testing a subsequent version or a similar application, it helps you to know from experience what part of this application are prone to failures and what part of these applications you need to focus your attention on the more. And you archive your test artifacts. For some organization, we do that with test management tools. We automatically archive it so that you can reuse them or you can have them in a repository for whether for storage, whether for audits, because for some big organizations, your test cases are actually being audited by IT audit or internal control so that they will check, so that in case probably something went wrong and they ask you who tested this application, was this thing not tested? Because once anything goes wrong, especially in fintech firms, in financial organizations, once something goes wrong, the first thing you will hear is, who tested this? Was it tested? And that is when you need to bring out your evidence of test. And you can only do that when you have that test artifact archived. Okay. So, like we've discussed, so we are going to do a deep dive into the test plan and the test cases. Right? We're going to do a deep dive into the test plan and test cases. So right now, do we have any questions? I want to give an opportunity for one or two questions before I proceed. You could shoot your shot. If I know if you answer, my guy is there to answer for me. So I want to take two questions so I'll be sure I'm not talking to myself. Two questions before I proceed.
Okay. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for the wonderful session so far. At least I've learned some new things. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Oh, okay. All right. My question is for the documentation of lessons learned at the end of the tests, when you're writing your test summary reports. The document, is it going to be part of the report or is just for your own consumption?
Okay, great question. Very good question. I'll take another question so that I'll answer them together. Any other question? Great question, Chinonso. Thank you for that question. Any other question? Okay, I want to believe that everybody's following with what I am saying. So, now, so for your question, it's another thing we need to understand is, for organizations and as professionals, what we are doing, we are not just doing for ourselves, we are doing for continuity. So there's what we call business continuity process, right? Everything you're doing it for the organization, you're doing it for the team. So your lessons learned is documented as part of your test summary report. Do you understand? So the test summary
Yes.
reports, the archives of your test summary reports, your test cases, in most organizations can be accessed by other people in the team. Do you understand? So somebody
Yeah.
wants to
Yeah.
bank off your experience, somebody wants to share from your experience, or maybe somebody have tested, maybe you're testing a mobile money application, and maybe you have tested it, and now you are now a senior person. You cannot be testing mobile apps again. You are now testing the back end, the core banking that is doing the processing and the shipping and the debiting and the settlement. That's what you are testing. You are not testing UI again. Then maybe somebody now wants to, there's now an add-on on that mobile banking. So they want to do, so when you do your mobile money transfer, you should be able to print receipts. Do you understand? So that functionality is also going to be on the mobile app that has been tested before. Do you get? So if somebody
Yes.
new wants to come pick it up, do you understand? They are also going
Mhm.
to need to revalidate your test cases, those test cases that you've done and passed. Do you get? And whatever you've documented during your report is going to be helpful to the person that is coming to pick it.
Okay.
Do you get that? All
Yeah, that
right.
answers it. Thank you very
All right.
much.
Thank you. All right. So we're just going to continue. So the component, so our test flow, like I said, oh my God, I don't want to murder your name. You have a wonderful name, Selena. Do you want to unmute and speak? I saw a hand now on Selena or something. I don't want to murder your name. Just you could just unmute and speak.
Um, thank you. It's okay. What I
Okay.
wanted to ask is that when documenting, do
Okay.
we okay when we test according to the requirements and the test cases. If it's I don't know if my question is late or
No,
because I just joined this today, so I don't know if it's for the
no,
right.
no, 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 no. So this is we are a community and we are learning together. So even if it is late, we can answer your question. So just shoot. Be free and ask your question.
Okay, so I wanted to ask that if we are testing, are we supposed to recommend something that maybe let's say you have um uh, uh, um I don't know I don't even know how to ask it, but okay, let's say you have a certain requirement and I have a recommendation. Yes, am I allowed in the documentations to say, okay, I see you did this, your scope and everything, your requirements are like this, but I recommend something. Or we just test and we're like, okay, this is okay according to your requirements. Am I supposed to suggest something with that, you could do this better, or you could do this according to engage better with your customers or the clients for your clients to really understand, because I'm understanding that testing, not everybody is on tech, or the customers, the testers, the end users. Not everybody is in tech. So if it's something that is for mobile, it's a website. Am I supposed to be like, okay, I understand as a company you guys did this, but am I supposed to document my bad, or I just test
Okay.
and
Yes.
okay.
Thanks. Help me pronounce your name. Selene. Is that
Yeah.
Selene?
It's in Lani, but it's fine.
Okay, Selani. Okay, thanks, Selani, for your question. And it is very good that you're being this intuitive. And that is one of the core skills of a test analyst. A test analyst is you the idea for you coming into a project is for you to actually make that project or application better. You now stand in the gap for the business and the user. One, you're making sure that while you're carrying out your test, because during for the IT, for the technology delivery pipeline, or for the technology delivery, for the delivery phase of that project, testers are the last gates before an application goes to production. So testers get to define whether the business makes profit of that application, and that the users that the application is supposed to be built for will be able to use the application. I don't know whether you're understanding me. So you need to make sure that, yes, that you follow the requirements, because the requirements from the business is actually what guides the implementation. This is actually what guides the implementation. The requirement from the business is what guides the implementation. And but your experience probably from other applications, your experience probably from um based off of your own intelligence of how the UX community, when I say UX, user experience community, is supposed to adopt that application, right? Let me make an example so that you get it. For instance, the business says, okay, we want we want an e-commerce site. We are testing an e-commerce site. Business say customers could log in. Once they log in, enter their username, enter their password, then enter their username, enter their password, log into the application, review the items they want to buy. If after reviewing the items they want to buy, they will check into a cart, check into the cart. Maybe the cart is going to be at the bottom right or the bottom left. Then they proceed for payment and checkout, right? And probably a particular set of people, probably people in Malawi or people in Somalia. So probably in the part where the application wants to be deployed to, people are usually maybe left-handed, or they prefer to see things at the top of their screens. And you say, okay, when you've tested based on the user design that was provided for that implementation and what was captured on the requirement, you now come up and say, oh, this is nice, but the users that are going to use this thing would rather want to see the list of products before logging in, so that they don't waste their time. Or sometimes when you're doing things like onboarding, so some businesses will just want to, okay, let's get customers to want to come in. But because of the requirements, they want to bring the person's first name, bring the person's maiden's name, bring the person's grandmother's name, bring their father's land certificate, all those requirements, because you want to open an account. And you see when the person starts the first two phases, they drop off and they don't complete the process. But you say, oh, no, we can't do that. Let's not do that. Instead of doing this, let's get the person's first name, get the person's last name, and get the person's government ID. So you get the person's BVN. Since all other informations that we want from the customer is on the BVN, we could just put the BVN and do an integration to pull all those data from the BVN. It saves the team much more work. Do you understand? And it's a better user experience for the users. Do you understand what I'm saying? So you need to, as a tester, you don't need to be quiet when you see things and ways where things can be done better. Because for a couple of us, this was what made us to be able to be visible within the team and helped grow us in the ranks. Do you understand? So you need to be inquisitive. You don't assume. So one thing I learned as a young tester, I never assume. I don't assume anything. I ask questions. You need to be you need to be very inquisitive. You need to ask questions, and you make sure that your question is answered to your satisfaction. Because you get to, if there is an issue tomorrow, you get to defend that application that you verified okay to proceed to production. I don't know if I've answered your question.
You have. Thank you so much.
All right, that's fine. So we'll proceed to so for the components of a test case, for in general, we have the test case ID. This is how you number your test cases. Then the description is actually what you're testing, the prerequisites, prerequisites are so in testing we call them preconditions. So for you to be able to test this, you want to be sure that the customer has onboarded. Hi Masego. Hi Masego. Do you have a question? Hi Masego. If you're not talking to us, can you please mute your mic? Okay, thank you. So prerequisites are also called preconditions. So preconditions are something you need to have before you be able to execute that test case. For example, if you want to be able to log on to an application, or maybe to use a service in an application, your precondition is that you must have been onboarded to the application. So your prerequisite is going to be the customer has been onboarded successfully, you have signed up successfully, and you have a username and your password. Do you understand? Those are prerequisites. Then the test steps. The test steps are those actions you carry out to be able to achieve that scenario. Do you understand? To be able to achieve that scenario, your test steps are what you do. You you launch the URL. You launch the URL. That's the first step. When the page displays, you locate the username field. You enter your username. You enter your password. You click on the sign in button, and you're able to log on to the application successfully. So those are the steps you use to close out that scenario. Your test data are basically what you used while you're testing. So your test data can be as simple as the test credentials, the username and password of the test of the user that you're trying to test. It can also be the database tables where you're validating that okay, this person a session ID was generated for this customer when he logged onto the application and the session ID was unique. Those are the like test data that you need to database, like the database where you are validating these things from. Also, test data can be your test account numbers because you're not expected to be testing with production account numbers. You can test with account numbers where you can do a bit of manipulations on. So those are kind of your test data, and it's good for you to actually keep a track of them as well. Expected results. Your expected result is what you're expected to see based off of what has been shared to you on the requirements document. Be that be on the user story, on the FROD, on the BROD. Like I said, it is your guiding document from the business. This is what the business wants, because sometimes you could provide your recommendations, and for some business reasons, they will say, oh no, this all our competitors are doing it this way. We don't want to do it this way. Let's stick to what we have. It's a business niche. That is what we want. Do you understand? So it is the functional documents, the documented requirements are your guide, because when push comes to shove, you're going to go back to that document and say, yes, this is the business requirement and this is what to sign off on. Do you get? So based off that document, your expected result is when you log on, when you put in your username and your password and you click sign in, what you see is the expected result. So your actual result is when you carry out that process, when you carry out that test, what happened? Do you understand? Sometimes it's going to be in line with the expected result. Sometimes, if there is a defect, it's going to be is not going to be in line. For instance, you log in, username and your password, and you click on the sign in button, and the landing page displays. So for the landing page is supposed to display a green background showing quality techies, right? Now, that's it. So on your expected results should be login, show a green background showing quality techies. But you now put in your username and your password and you click on sign in, and it displays a blue background and is now showing quality techies. It's showed, right? But that scenario is filled because based off the requirements, it should be a green background. So things are simple, things as little as spellings, as appearance, and functionality. We also check that for quality assurance, because I don't want to call out any brands right now. I've seen some applications where we see wrong spellings in production. We've seen misspelled words in production. Yes, as a tester, you're validating functionality. You're protecting, you're certifying the application's functionality, and you're also protecting the brand's image. Do you understand? So if what you're testing, it might not be documented, but if the spellings are wrong, you're also responsible to get that corrected. I don't know if you get that. So, but that's out of our scope. But yes, things like that should also be flagged for correction against the developer. Status is whether the scenario was passed or fail after you run through the process, whether it was passed or fail. Comment. No, now comments would be what happened, what you did, what happened. Maybe you saw the skill in Flickr before it was stable. So when you logged in, you put in your username and password. You don't know, for some reasons the screen flickered a bit before it became stable. You can put that as your comment. Or the way the login process was, maybe like for your recommendations, like Selani said, you could put that as your comments there as well, so the business can probably review and have a second thought. Platform is actually where you actually tested. Did you test on the UAT environment? Did you test on the dev platform? Did you test on the Linux platform? The platform where the test was actually carried out, the module where you're testing in. So most applications are broken down into modules. So we can have the authentication module, we have the onboarding module, we have, if it's a payment application, you have the payment module. Then if it is a report, you have a reporting module. So where you're testing. So login, log out is usually on the authentication module. Onboarding, things like sign up, refer, sign up on the onboarding module. The payments are on the payments module. Anything to be able to generate reports, to review settlement, everything that has to do reports is usually on the reporting module. So that is what the module speaks to. And the OS. So the OS is the operating system where the test is being carried out. I don't think I should run through what an OS is, but yes, did you test on the Windows application? Did you test on the Mac? Did you test on, yes, it's Mac OS. Test on Mac OS. Did you test on an iOS? Did you test on Android and things like that? So yeah, that's basically it. Test scenario and bug, test scenarios, bugs, or defects. So this is where a lot of people tend to get some things mixed up when it comes to software testing. The test scenario is this that specifies what area is to be validated in the application. It is what exactly you're validating, what exactly you're testing, right? And your test case is how you test it. I'm going to take that again. Your test scenario or your test condition, your test scenario or test condition is the same thing. Your test scenario is what you are testing. Your test case is how you are testing what you are testing. Do you get? So, like I've been using the login scenario, sign up scenarios, these are scenarios. But the way we go about testing it, those are our test cases. We want to test a valid login scenario. So while we are testing a valid login scenario, the test cases that will come out in a valid login scenario, you want to check that you can sign in with a username and with a valid username and password. That's one. You want to check that you cannot sign in with an invalid username and password. You want to check that you cannot sign in with a valid username and an invalid password. Do you understand? Because sometimes these checks fail. And all these test cases I've listed out are for the scenario of testing a valid login. I don't know if I've been able to convince you or put that out there and not to confuse you. All right. So bugs, like I said earlier, are the terms for issues or or defects when we encountered on where we are testing application. So a bug or a defect is like a flaw in the component or the system that can cause it to fail to perform its required action. Like I said, anything that is not part of the requirement, that is out of like that is not in line with what is the requirement, the functional requirement for an application, even as little as a misspelling is a defect and should be treated as such. I don't know if you heard me. So anything that is not in line, that is a flaw from the documented requirements, should be treated as a defect. Now, we are still going to come to that. So we have level of defects. Your defects can be a critical defect. Your defects can be high defects. Your defects can be low defects, and your defects can be trivial defects. So when we come to there, so there's how we categorize this, depending on how severe the severity of these defects are. So your critical defects, probably they are so depending on how different organizations how they clarify these things. So most times trivial defects are defects that has to do with color blending, misspelt words, things that you can say, okay, let's go and do it in the next in V2. It is not critical. It's not in, so people will not even see it. Let's just proceed with that. Or maybe an edge that is not streamlined very well. Or for instance, if you're seeing my screen, um, supposing on the requirements, this line is supposed to be close to the S. It's just supposed to continue from this S. This space is not supposed to be there. And when we go to production, there's this space. This is supposed to be a defect, but it's a trivial defect because it actually makes the presentation a bit more appealing. Yeah, so but such things we categorize them as defects, but they are trivial defects. Some are low defects. Low defects are they are not in line with the requirements, but they don't cause any problem at all. Do you understand? Maybe it can be like a maybe a section of the screen not aligned properly, or maybe a section of the screen not shown and not displayed very well, or there is a button that is not working, that is supposed to probably show you like a pop-up, but it's not working. But for a business, it is not like it doesn't have like any value. It's just like UI designs that is not properly done. Those are low defects that can be corrected in a later version, or can be decided by the team, okay, we are comfortable to proceed without this. Then high and critical defects. Like I used to say, critical defects are defects that has to do with customers' money, maybe customer losing money or the organization losing money. Those defects are critical. Defects that impact the brand image. Let's say you're pushing an application that says if you invest 5,000 naira, the organization is going to give you a 10% increase. It give you a 10% increase if you need your money for 3 months, right? And while you're testing, you try to do that scenario, and you see that after 3 months, the person is actually not getting 10%, the person is getting 7.5%. That is a critical defect. And that should not be allowed to proceed until such a defect is fixed, because it has to do an impact with the brand's identity, because you're telling somebody you're giving them 10%, but you're giving them 7.5%. Sometimes when somebody, another scenario of critical defect is maybe you're testing a mobile payment application and customer sends money to customer A, sends money to customer B, but the money is leaving customer A account and is crediting customer C, and customer B does not have any money. That is a critical defect because you're sending money to a wrong beneficiary. In this case, customer is losing money and you're crediting somebody wrongly. So these are the way we categorize defects. But anything that is not in line, that is a flaw in the system or in the defined requirements, is actually classified to be a defect. Okay, Exactly. So this is what we call, this is what I was talking to earlier. This is what we call the traceability matrix for our requirements. So when we are writing our test cases, so basically the traceability matrix is a table that is used to trace requirements to test cases and test cases back to requirements. So there is that mapping that could be done for the requirements to test cases. Remember, like I said, the requirements are your guiding lines, are your guiding principle to the appropriate functionality of that application, right? And for each of your test cases, they should align with your requirements. And every requirement in that document must be validated for. You don't say, oh, because this requirement work, this one has worked. No. So sometimes for some application, you'll be surprised that these two things are in the same page. And because this one works, this other one should work. It will not be your clear eye. Let me speak it in our street terms. It will not be your clear eye. That one that you think will work will not go and fail on production because you did not validate it. So all the requirements that has been highlighted in the user story, in the FROD, in the BROD, should have a corresponding test case in your test case document or your test suite. Oh, sorry, your test case document. Your test suite is the collection of all your test cases. I don't want to confuse you here. Your test case is a test suite is a collection of all your test cases. But what we're dealing with here is your test cases, which is the steps to validate a particular test scenario. So yes, like we said, forward traceability ensures that the requirement has corresponding test cases. Backward traceability ensures that every test case is marked back to a valid requirement, because sometimes you don't want to be raising spurious test cases, and because spurious test cases will lead to spurious bugs, we want to be sure that everything we are thinking, like every of our thoughts process, every of the test cases we want to validate for that application or that implementation is backed by a corresponding requirement. Okay, so this is a sample, but we're going to get there because this is supposed to be hands-on. But let's quickly run through the slides, then we'll do. Okay, I think this is a link to a test plan. I'm going to share this. I'm going to drop this. I'm going to share this with us. 1 minute. I'm going to share this with us. So you might want to look at it. This is a sample test plan that was generated for this course. So I dropped the link on the chat. So you might want to just open it and have a look of what the components are. This is kind of very detailed and generalized. So it's, if you open it, says this is a system test plan for Iroru loan application. So yes, so basically, like we said, it has your introduction, gives you like an overview of the project, what you're supposed to be testing, what the project is supposed to achieve. It gives you brief analysis of the project, and it tells you the test environment that has been preferred where you will be testing. It tells you like the software risk and the issues. It lists out the items to be tested. Do you understand? It shows you as well the features to be tested. And also, because this is a binding document, it is a deliverable for the testing phase. You also need to specify these are the items that we are not going to be testing. Sometimes, for those scenarios that you're not going to be testing, you could provide reasons why you're not going to be testing them, probably because they are out of scope, or probably because of test environment limitations, or probably because we can't reproduce them on QA based on one of all those reasons. We need to say, okay, for these scenarios, we can't actually test it. You understand? Because of like the test environment you are testing. let's say we are a manual testing team now, and an application wants to roll out. Yes, there are non-functional ways to test this scenario, but I'm just painting a picture, right? And I said, okay, for one of our applications in the business, one of the customers, a particular customer that is using what's the most expensive phone in the market? Okay, let me not say the most expensive phone that is using a. I want to think of a scarce phone, like a very scarce device in Lagos. Um, this okay, say this Redmi is not too scarce. Okay, so he's using a particular Redmi, maybe Redmi version 17, and whenever he clicks on the login button on our application, the login button disappears and the customer is not able to log in, but every other person can use it. Do you understand? We will not be able to test that scenario because we don't have that kind of device. And our test environment simulator cannot simulate that kind of device. Do you get? But we just tested that it works on various versions. So these are some of the limitations for some applications. After analysis, we need to say, okay, these are scenarios we might not be able to test. Then the testing approach, you need to specify your testing approach. You need to say the pass and fail criteria. That is what your pass means when you're saying it is pass, what it means when you say it is fail, what it means. Also, your one of the important modules that you're supposed to put in your test plan is the entry and exit criteria. So your entry criteria are what should be done before you say, okay, I've started test execution. Mind you, most times in agile delivery, this is not kind of followed faithfully because you're testing around the clock. You're testing from the ideation to gathering of requirements to planning to development to the reporting. So most times there is no really entry and exit criteria. But when you're doing your sprint planning for agile, when you're doing your sprint planning, your iteration planning, or your release planning, all these things need to be done. You need to you need to check out on some of these entry requirements. And your entry requirements can be signed off requirements, stable environment, availability of test data that you're going to use. You will not say you started testing and you're still looking for accounts you're going to test with. And the exit criteria. So you need to define what your exit criteria will be. So most times it is that all the plant tests that you want to conduct has been executed. There is no high or critical defects, and there are so we can decide when we are planning our exit criteria. We can say, okay, we have like a minimum of 3 low defects or 3 trivial defects, we can actually proceed to production. So these are things we need to define. Some suspension and resumption criteria is also a good to have. We need to then define the test deliverable for each of those phases. And most times the test deliverable is usually your test plan, which is the document you're reviewing right now, your test cases, which has all the test cases that you're using to plan for the implementation. You know, your test cases is not your scenario, it's not the test scenario. So your test cases and your test execution logs, that's the pass, fail, how many times it passed, how many times it failed, and your defect logs, the number of defects that you encountered while testing, and your test summary reports. These are usually all the test deliverables. Also, you might want to also include the staffing, like the resources, the number of people that is supposed to test the application, their roles, what they are supposed to do, and their corresponding responsibility. Also, we put in the timeline. Testing is going to start at this date. Testing is going to finish at this date. Do you understand? This most times is usually done with the waterfall or V model methodology. In agile, your time box, they are there you we are delivering a sprint, which is usually a 2 week sprint. And you're telling me that we must complete testing today, we must complete testing tomorrow. So it is usually iterative, and most times it's not usually so most time timelines are usually within the specified timeline of the team. So basically, yes, this is basically what the sample test plan looks like. That's basically what the sample test plan looks like. Uh, okay. So this is a test case template. I'm going to share this with you as well. I'm going to share this with you as well. Let me share this 1 minute. I'm going to drop the link here as well. Just talk us straight. 1 minute. I just want to get a link, and so that you have a review. So these templates can actually be adopted for your teams, but for different teams, we have different. So I've dropped it to you. You might want to log in to review what it looks like. And I'm just going to talk us through it. So basically, this is what your sample test case is supposed to look like. So like we said, it's supposed to have your test case ID. Your test case ID is like the numbering for each of your test cases. We have a sample on the screen. Your test case ID is going to have like the test title. Like test title is the scenario where you're testing, what exactly you're testing, the test summary, the test steps. The test steps are how you test it, how you go about testing it. You launch the URL. That's the first thing you did. Because one of the benefits of writing a detailed test step is so that somebody else can pick up your test case and be able to be test the application. I don't know if you got that. One one of the benefits of writing detailed test steps is so that another person, like a new person, can pick up your test document or your test case and be able to test the application. It's not going to be new for that person. It helps, it encourages continuity. So if I see, okay, for me to test, I'll just launch this URL. You put the URL, you don't just write and launch the URL. You put the URL, launch the URL, put in the URL, you logged in. You logged in with this username and this password. Yes, you put it there, it's test environment. Then you clicked on the button. If possible, you describe the button. I clicked on the red button on the right-hand side of the screen. So you try to make as much. So I'm exaggerating now, but and I think you get the picture. You need to make your test cases as elaborate as possible, so that when somebody else comes to pick up your sheet, they should be able to test that application with or without external supervision or external help. Then you put in your test data, what you were testing with, the expected results, what you're expected to see for that action based on what is documented in the requirements document. Then your post condition. Post condition is usually that you have completed the steps. Do you understand? You have completed all the steps written on the test steps field. Then you click on it, then you write your actual result, then you pass your current status. Your current status will now be whether it is passed or failed. Whether it's passed or failed. At this time, any question? Any questions? Okay, in the absence of no questions, we'll just continue. So now we're going to look at steps to creating the test case. Like I said, we've basically gone through this. You develop the test case description. Is basically, so you need to know what you're testing. Like I said, you need to understand the scenario you're testing. The scenario you're testing is the condition you're testing for. Then you now look at all the possible things that can happen within that scenario. Do you understand? And you write out test cases for them. I think Okay, let me take that again. So take for instance, you're saying you want to test an onboarding scenario. Onboarding is the scenario. You want to test that you can sign up on an application successfully, right? That's the scenario we are testing for. Now, for your test cases on that scenario, for that onboarding scenario, we can have, it is just one test condition. Test that you can onboard to application successfully. It is just one. But on that one, your test cases out of that one scenario can be 10, can be 7, can be 12, can be 20. Do you understand? Because one, you want to be able to check, depending on the number of forms that you're supposed to fill for you to complete the onboarding process. You want to check that you you can you can onboard you can onboard successfully when you fill it all the required fields on the form. You want to check that you can onboard successfully if you don't fill every when you don't fill all the fields on the form, but you fill the mandatory ones. Do you understand? You want to test that. Why do you want to test that? You want to be sure that there is no field that is marked as non-mandatory that is made mandatory on the back end. Do you understand? You want to be sure that you cannot submit complete an onboarding if you don't fill all mandatory fields. Do you understand? You also want to confirm that when you submit your form successfully, you are onboarded successfully and you can log in successfully. So you look and you need to think around it. You develop the test description, incorporate essential data, execute the steps, and verify your record input, and also try to understand, integrate your preconditions and your post conditions. Okay. Okay, we've gone through this, but I think you might want to like take note of this. These are like key insights for the test plan, and your test case, right? Your test plan covers the overall testing approach. It's a strategic high-level document. It covers the scope, the resources, the schedule, and it is usually one per project. So for every project has its own test plan. It has its own test plan. So for everything that you're doing, you have a single test plan for that project. For test cases are your step-by-step instructions for executing a specific test. In this case, your test scenario or your test condition. So they are a tactical detailed document. It defines steps and data and the expected results when you carry out your test. It's a many per feature. You can use it. So what this means is that it can be reusable. Do you understand? It can be reusable. So when you're doing something similar, maybe an enhancement on that project, or you're doing a fix on that same project, or you're doing regression on that same project, you can still reuse your test cases. Are we clear? So the same thing. So test plan, test case at a glance. So this is breaking them down into purpose, level, the owner, and quantity. Just like we said in the last slide, the test plan defines the overall testing approach. The test cases it validates your specific function or the part. The test plan is strategic, is high level because you don't see like breakdown of this is what we are supposed to test for. This is the people that are supposed to use it. This is what's the plan on how to confirm that this is working fine before we push it out to the market. So, but test cases will give you like the detailed steps on how we are going to validate it and how we are going to keep it, and how we are going to test it, right? Usually the owner of the test plan is the test manager or the QA lead. Sometimes the testers themselves don't get to write test plan. But I usually encourage people because if you are an analyst today, you can be a senior. You will definitely be a senior tomorrow. And because you are in this session, you're definitely going to be a lead. and you're going to be a manager. So growth is constant, right? So the thing is, I usually encourage people to actually understand the scope, understand the fundamentals, understand the basics, write a plan, test plan yourself. When you're done, you send it out for review. You can do peer review, you can do line managers review. So, but on based on the normal software quality testing board, the test plan actually belongs to the owner is the test manager. He writes the test plan, and the test cases is actually done by the tester. You list out your test cases. In some organizations, you list out your test cases. Your supervisor or your test lead now reviews your test cases, make some adjustments, makes a correction here and there before you upload it to your test management suite. Some people use Jira, some people use Azure, the test management on Azure. Some people use Zypher. So there are a lot of test management too. Some people use simple Excel. So yes, you can use Excel as well. Then the quantity, your test plan is usually one per project. Test cases is many. Test cases is many. So it depends on the number of requirements that you have for that project. But test cases can be many. So at this point, do you have questions? I want to take questions. I want us to interact before I want us to interact. Do you have questions? Any questions? Any
Yes.
questions, please? Okay, please ask the question.
Okay, good morning. Thank
Hi,
you.
good morning. Okay.
So I want to ask, when you're
This
writing
is
it,
this is Miracle, right?
yeah, this is Miracle.
Okay, thank you.
When you're writing a test plan, so is it important to add like the test type? So what method of testing are you using? Like, is it important to include it in the whole plan?
Very important. Very good question. Very good question. Very, very good question. You should include it in the test plan because it gives an idea of what you're validating and how you're validating it. So, for instance, if you're saying, okay, we want to test, I want to just use like a use case, like a real life example. For instance, when you pick your app, hmm, when you pick your mobile app and you want to test, maybe you're testing a mobile payment application and you pick your mobile app and you say, the debit my account. You want to do transfer from my account to maybe Selani's account and you put in your amount. There's the front end bit and there's the back end bit. The front end bit is that flow that you're seeing on your phones, right? Takes the amount, it shows you, it does the validation, then you click on send. It shows you transaction successful, your money is on the way, or your money is sent. Do you understand? Now, the interactions between you're getting your money leaving your account and your money hitting um, Selani's account, there are back-end jobs, there are APIs that runs that kind of completes that process. Do you understand? Take for instance that we are testing, and moreover, your testing is both on the front end and the back end. Do you get? So for you to be able to validate those testing, you are going to test the functional UI, you're going to test the UI, you're going to test the APIs, right? And also you're going to test on databases, on the DB, that all those impacts is going to the database, all those transaction flow, those user journey is going to be. So those documents, those things are supposed to be part of your test plan. And if you see the sample, let's go back to the sample test plan we shared. If you don't mind, can you just quickly go back to the sample test plan? On the term, so where will this thing you just mentioned be? It's going to be on, I think there's where we captured environment. Yes, there's where we captured. So you see, so there's test environment, yes. System tests will be conducted in QA environment, and she puts in the user story, the website of the test environment. This is the website. Then here we are going to put the validations. API testing will also be carried out. Then you put database validations that's going to be carried out. You put in the credentials of the database. Do you understand? Also, you can put it here as well on the system approach. System testing will be conducted by QA analysts, including functional, API, performance, whatever. Do you understand? So your test plan is supposed to be detailed enough to capture all the processes that was involved in carrying out your test. I don't know if I've answered your question.
Yeah, you have. Okay, so just one more. So if you are in a team, just like you said now, that the lead is the one that is going to that your the the QA analyst is supposed to submit the document to. So if you're maybe hired and you're asked to get a test plan maybe for the project and you worked on it, you're supposed to submit it to the owner. Just if there's no lead or something.
Okay. Like I said, ideally, I see your hand. I'm going to take your question. Like I said, once we get into the professional landscape, we are not doing what the syllabus said. We are not doing what the syllabus says because every team has a way they play. Do you understand? The way we play in my team today is not the way we played when I was under our convener, when I was learning under our convener today. And it was not the way we played when we were starting up our career. Do you understand? So every team has a way of playing, but in the actual sense, what I said is it's always good for you to know how to do these things because they are prerequisites, they are things that you should know how to do as a quality engineer. Do you understand? So, like I said, some organizations, when you're done with it, even with your test cases, you send it out for review. I'm doing, I meet one of my cannot be exhaustive. You cannot know everything. You cannot see it all from, like Selane said, the business might not be able to know it all. You as a tester might not be able to see it. One of the beautiful things being a test person is you have an overview of seeing the entire project from beginning to the end, seeing both the front, seeing both the back, seeing both the interactions that happen, especially when you're working in most fintech firms where communications are not in silos, like everything is open. So you get to see everything. But when you're in that place, you don't assume that you know everything. So you want to share with your peer, somebody that would help you check, oh, is there something that I've missed? Is there something that I've overthought? Because there are some thoughts that are overkill. Do you understand? It's not as if you finish it, you pack it, you say, this is not my old anymore, and you are going to give it to your team lead. No. Do you understand? The idea is for that second level verification, like what we call 2F, your second level verification, it's more like a peer review. Do you understand? But the syllabus says, as a tester, your work is to write the test cases, carry out execution of your test cases, and report your test cases. The syllabus says preparing your no, I think yes, preparing the environment is also your test, is your responsibility. But preparing the test plan is for the test lead. Do you understand? So the test lead, the owner of the test plan is the test lead. But you are responsible for the test cases, executing the test cases, and reporting the activities from the test. So what I said is just for a peer review, a review on a review basis. Yes, Adiola. Adiola, Biraku, sorry, are
Yeah,
we
yeah.
done? Do you have any other question? All right, thank you.
Good
Adiola, please.
afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon.
Thank you very much for your time and taking time to explain this in details. So my question is a practical one. and
Okay.
it's in line with the test summary. That's the final QA validation after you've done all the tests and you want to
Okay.
write your report. So in a situation whereby you after your tests and you notice you violated some bugs,
Okay.
but probably because of time and the team just want to they just want to launch the product and you are telling them that this bug needs to be fixed, but the team say okay, we can just let it go probably um, maybe in the next sprint, or maybe you should just put it at the backlog there. Maybe later it will be looked into. But as a QA person, you are not satisfied with that. But the team has decided that now, as a QA, giving your validation, how do you inculcate this in your report? In order to, sometimes we need to protect ourselves too. In order to protect ourselves, just like you said that, for instance, if you work in the banking sector, for instance, if anything happens, the first thing they will ask is who tests this. So in order to protect yourself, how do you go about it when you are writing your report, your final report? I don't know if you
Great
if you get.
question. Great question, Adiola. I understand you. And this is what we see. So once the organizations where you work in, this is what you see for every project, because for most times project managers, so this is not a jab or stray bullet to project managers, but most times project managers, they don't know how to manage timelines, and they used to provide unrealistic timelines, something that they know that we cannot deliver in 5 days. They will go and meet management and say they will deliver it in 2 days, and they will now be pursuing developers and testers, and most times developers and testers will be having bottlenecks. And I would have left this question for our convener to answer it, because she's an OG when it comes to this. But I'm going to say this, then I'm going to hand over to her. Okay, so basically, right, these are things that happen, and like I said, we are quality gates for an implementation to go to production. Do you understand? We are a quality gate. We are a gate, but we are not the gatekeeper. Get it? So a QA person will not say, Oga, we are not going, no, we should not go. But we are there, we have identified this. We want to prevent it from going to production. And they are saying we must go to production. And you have evidence. But if we go to production, Kini Malano, sorry for my use, for those people that doesn't understand what I said. And that this thing would spoil, they would cause an issue in production. But the team is saying no, that it's not going, that we should go. That is why your test reports before deployment, it is a change management objective. No deployment is going to be done unless there is a sign off by the quality assurance person. And for you to give your sign off, your test, you would have identified this flaw, and you would have asked the business. So this is how personally I manage it, because this is more about ethics than process. And this is more ethics than process. We don't want too much documentation, but we want a working software. So how I manage it is I'll bring it open, because most times when we build within the development space, we are building in our own. But most times when things escalate, everybody sees it. So because everybody is going to see it, when it possibly escalates, you bring it up to the business. You probably do it via an email, or yes, because you need documentation, you need evidence. And I say this to most young QA persons, or even to senior people. There is nothing as evidence as your evidence of testing. You cannot say I tested you, I discussed with you, we agreed. No, there should be evidence, whether written or recorded, that can be archived. Do you understand? For all your testings, make sure that you have your screenshots. Do you get? For everything you test, make sure you have your screenshots and you have them handy, so that when they ask you, was this tested? You tested it. Oh, yes, I tested it. Where's your evidence? See my evidence here.
Do you understand? So you bring
Yeah.
this up and you tell the business. So the normal message I write is that while preparing for closure activities for the subject implementation, it was observed that so defects still exist and is yet to be resolved. The development team has advised to proceed with deployment, owing to the fact that this is not going to be an issue in production. Kindly provide business acceptance to the risk as identified by QA. It's as simple. So you have brought it out and you have told them, okay, if it is okay for you, the street language is about 10 long. If you like it, sign and accept that the risk, you accept the risk. Do you understand? Because
Yeah.
yes, we want to meet up with timeline, we want to meet up with time to market, we want to deploy so that our customers, we want to meet our customers, but there's no point of giving our customers applications that they cannot use. Do you understand? Or applications that will cause issues. But if you have said it, like you said, you made your recommendations, we should not proceed. And the team is hell bent on proceeding. You are not the gatekeeper. Do you
Yeah, understood.
understand? You are not the gatekeeper. So in places like banks, for most banks, there's after the whole process, there's the change management board that reviews the change before it eventually goes to production. So those ones are the gatekeepers. But you cannot say no, we cannot proceed. We cannot proceed. Your own is to test and document your findings. Any other question?
Oh, that's fine,
Any
sir.
other?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Adiola. Any other question? Okay, at this time,
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
okay,
Sorry. Obinna, just okay.
okay.
Okay. I picked few things from the question that was asked and your response. Now, um, a typical scenario, right? I just wanted to ask. Now, you're testing on the test environment,
Mm-hmm.
and the project manager and say board and every other person, they are saying, okay, we are behind schedule. We need to move to the next stage, which is pilot stage, and you're still testing on the test environment. Is it okay to give a go ahead? Though you're not going to production, it's not being exposed to customers, but internal
Mm-hmm.
customers, right? Pilots
Mm-hmm.
within the
Mm-hmm.
pilot phase, but you're still doing your testing and everything. Is it okay to give a go ahead to pilot stage while you're still testing on the test environment?
Okay. Thank you for that question, Chinon. So, like I said, we are quality engineers in 2026, and we cannot be doing, we cannot be testers, we cannot be testing like testers in 2020 or the year 2015. Do you understand? We are here in this age of AI, in the age of agile, and we are supposed to have evolved into quality engineering, quality engineers. And evolution I'm talking about means we are supposed to evolve in our skills, we are supposed to evolve in our interpersonal skills, we are supposed to evolve in analytical skills, we are supposed to evolve in our collaborative skills. Do you get? Sometimes when
Yeah.
we do some of those things, we look at them from the technical perspective and from the how would I put it? We look at it from the IQ perspective and we also look at it from the EQ perspective. Do you get? We are a team. It is not a you thing, it is a
Yeah.
team thing. Do you get? So you're testing on UAT, right? You're testing on UAT. And most times I think is one of the issues with some fintech organizations where you go and you find just one tester that actually handle multiple projects, like 3 or 4 projects, unlike some bigger organizations where the tasks are spread evenly. Do you get? So because of the workload, you'll notice that a particular tester, a particular resource is choked on a sing on a is choked on a single task, and the project is actually moving faster than the tester. Do you understand? Because blame you cannot blame a developer for churning out his products fast. And most times where you have working with good developers that actually do a unit testing
of they do unit testing of their codes before commit, and they actually do kind of, as in their unit testing stack is up to date. Do you understand? And I would say they don't really depend on your test to proceed. Do you understand, in their build? Because they do their unit test and they want to just validate based on the UX point of view and the functional point of view, but you're lagging behind. Do you understand? But as long as there are no critical defects that is being moved from one environment to another, I would allow them to proceed.
Okay.
Do you
Okay.
understand? The only disadvantage to it is that now I am I am increasing my workload, because if I keep testing on UAT while the project has moved to pilot, I am supposed to be testing on UAT and now on pilot, unless we have a new set of users that will be testing on pilot. Do you understand? And in most organization is the business users that will be testing on pilots, because they'll be using close to production
Data.
credentials. You
Yeah.
understand? So for me, if I say, okay, there were no critical defects in UAT, unless where there are critical defects, I will let you know that we cannot go to pilot too, because this thing is still there. It has not been resolved. Or maybe it has been resolved, you have not tested it. You now say, oh, this issue has been there, I've not tested it. Maybe my drop off the trivial issue task you're testing to go test the critical and the high case scenarios and give them a go ahead, so that you can still manage the timeline and business stakeholders' expectations. Do you understand? But we don't want to delay the project because of our QA person is lagging behind. Do
Okay.
you understand? So
I
most
understand.
times when we encountered soft, okay, sorry,
Yeah. Sorry.
you
Go
are
ahead.
saying something.
Yeah, I wanted to say, but
So I
most times they give unrealistic timelines. That's just it. That's just it.
That's the truth. So
Yeah.
it is one of the things that comes. It is one of the things that comes with the, how do I put it, with the game. It's like when you're buying what's the shawarma that have bone. You're buying shawarma because the what's it called, beef is plenty, but you know that sometimes they put bone. So it is one of the perks that you get, and it is one of the realities in the space. So when we encounter such decisions, I think we should engage it more with the EIQ perspective than just the IQ perspective. Mind you, I said EIQ, emotional intelligence quotient. You need to put in
Okay.
your intelligence while you're putting emotion. So don't use only emotion, because if you use only emotion, you can get to the next phase and it will burst. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So instead of just using only the IQ, how it works, also apply your emotional intelligence quotient. Thank you very much for that question.
Thank you so much for answering. Thank you. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Obinna. It was really an insightful and a loaded session. Thank you so much for bringing practical application to the attendance of this training. Please, can you drop like an assignment for them to start trying out test plan or test case, since they have a format? I think we can just agree on maybe a site, like a free resource. I can't remember if that is in the curriculum. I know we will still do a capstone project, but before that, I want you guys to start getting your hands dirty on writing test plan and test cases. Obinna, I don't know, do you have any sample websites they could explore and write, maybe just login scenario and register scenario? Do you have any application in mind? Please confirm if I'm audible. Hello?
Hello.
Yes, we can hear
Sorry.
you.
Yes, you are you
Okay.
are audible.
Apologies. Yeah, sorry. I lost connection for a bit. I don't know why. But yes, I want to thank you guys for being a good audience. Thank you for making it interactive. And I hope to probably review some of the tasks that we've discussed here um, during our session tomorrow. So permit me to hand over back to our convener, Adenike Olapiton. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you, Obinna. It was quite an insightful session. Thank you for everything that you have dished out today. And I'm sure everyone has learned one or two things. So before your network was disconnected, I mentioned that do you have any free resource, like an open source application in mind for them to get their hand dirty on practicing a test plan and test cases before the start of their capstone projects? Do you have any in mind? So we could just drop it in the chat.
Okay, permit me to share this with you tomorrow. I think so I wouldn't want to do something that I've not reviewed.
Okay.
I don't want to do something out of the head.
All right.
Let me share this with you with the team tomorrow. Yeah. I don't have any at the moment. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thanks everyone for joining. See you tomorrow by 5 p.m. I will drop you updates in the community session. And if you're on this call and you've not followed us on YouTube and LinkedIn, please do so today to get latest updates of the trainings that we organize monthly. Please follow us on Quality Techies. Drop your comments on how much you have learned on this few days into your journey in software testing career. Thank you. Bye and have a restful weekend ahead.